Hello everyone. Welcome to learn more about Malaysian society and control. What are control and customs? Confucius said, when friends come from afar, it's not a pleasure to shout. Courtesy is respectful to others. A gentleman left money and takes it appropriately. Vic said, etiquette is a delicate thing, which is indispensable to people's communication and can't be ignored too much. All of them are talking about the importance of etiquette from a national level. The custom and control of our nation can we interpret these two words. This is a mean of control. This is a mean of customer. This is a value of control and customer. As a country's legacy and inheritance, folk control is not only a reflection of a country's different politics and economy, but also a way to cover a country's tradition, life and mentally, and also an important way for strangers to get to know a country. Its formation is related to the country's living environment, mode of production, economic conditions, and lives. For example, in China in ancient times, there was a sea that there was no him, but its first were covered, and that you should eat the fish or birds and animals, which reflected the living customers at the time. Boating in the sense of the Yangtze River and blankets in pastoral areas development into today's small buildings and bungalows. This series of changes was influenced by production methods and economic conditions. For example, religious benefits hand down from people's reverence for nature and the washing of souls. With the development of human civilization, the culture and custom maintained in today's society are formed by slowly summoning these expressions in an ordained and systematic way. People take the essence and discard the tools, such as traditional festivals, international anniversaries, life etiquette, holiday diet, etc. Nowadays, almost all countries have adopted policies to support good customers and refund bad babies. The most obvious one should be non-legacy applications such as Malaya, Wushu, China Han and Tang classical dance, folk dance, and Japanese flower arrangement. As international students, we are about to step into a new country, so we should learn more about its culture and customers, broaden our horizon and broaden our knowledge, so that we can better integrate into a new environment and avoid some unnecessary misunderstanding.
The following sections focus on the background of Malaysian society, culture, and customs, and analyzes and explains the influence of social background on the customs and rituals. First, I will give a brief description of my research process. As far as the research method is concerned, the target topic was analyzed mainly by the way of literature review. Through information collection and integration, the quantitative analysis as a way and method. The follow chart below is the main idea of this part of the study. Given the definition of the concepts of ritual and customs, we extend them to the concepts of regions, culture, and customs. In other words, there are important elements that constitute the background of Niger society and pass to the next generation, forming a unique social cultural system. And the next step is to break down the secondary objectives. In terms of religion and culture, we mainly consider the importance of Islam to Malaysia, which is called the national religion of Malaysia. So the study of development of Islam in the Malaysia region has a strong historical significance. Well, the development of religion implies not only the spread of ideas, but also the process of ideology formation. In terms of culture, since Malaysia is multi-ethnic country, there are different behavioral habits reflected in different folk customs and traditions. But because of the diversity and inclusiveness of Malay culture, these different ethnic cultures have been able to flourish together. Therefore, this section is a study based on the background of cultural diversity. And the second part set out three objectives, which take into account the element of Malaysian cultural composition and social activities, and elaborate on the development of Malaysian folk culture in terms of language development, social customs, and habits. And the last one is ceremony activities. And Malaysia is multi-ethnic, multicultural country with Islam as official religions. In 1990s, Malaysia's economy grew at a fast pace. Political stability was relatively high. Economic development became the main task of all Malaysians, and national reconciliation and religious tolerance became the mainstream in Malaysia. At the same time, the culture of Islam is not only an important part of Malaysian history, but also has a profound influence in aesthetic concepts, such as architectural structures and dress code, which reflect not only the aesthetic characteristics of the religions, but also a perfect interpretation of faith. Finally, the data shows that the Malay population of the majority in the composition of the post-Malay structure, with 69.1% being the largest ethnic group in Malaysia. They are closely followed by Malay Chinese and Indians with 23% and 6.9% respectively, which fully reflects the multi-ethnic and multicultural nature of Malaysian nation. Therefore, we will summarize as follow three parts. And firstly is in terms of language development, a wide range of language with Malay as the main language and combination of multiple language from the system. As far as social equity is concerned, respect and civility are fully reflected in this section. Finally, there are activities which, given the diverse and inclusive nature of cultural composition, colorful festivals, celebrations, it could be seen as an essential part of Malay culture.
Now we are coming to the critical analysis of research. Firstly, we are talking about interesting values about the costume and ritual. Nowadays, people pay more and more attention to the sense of ceremony. Birthdays should be celebrated with a sense of ceremony, and the anniversaries between lovers should be also celebrated with a sense of ceremony. But for a country, costume and rituals are the greatest sense of ceremony. It is a cultural identity handed down from the ancient society. Malaysia is a multicultural, multi-religious country, of which the largest share is Islam. The first point I would like to demonstrate is the eating habits of Muslims. They don't eat pork or aquatic shellfish, and they don't drink alcohol, always wash hands before and after meals. The second thing, the traditional Malay greeting etiquette is to touch hand. This is related to the second part. What do we like about costume and ritual? It is worth mentioning that the topic has strong practicality. For example, knowing about the eating habits and greeting habits is very important. Even if they aren't our personal table, when we eat in front of them or eat with them, it's an expression of respect. Secondly, knowing about the meeting rituals can be very helpful when we need to meet someone and say hello. It should be remembered that passing objects with the left hand and pointing with the index finger are not permitted. These manners need to be learned because they express our friendliness and politeness. Then is the challenge of understanding the costume and ritual and the importance of maintaining the heritage. The challenge to understanding the topic comes in two ways. One that the topic is broader than other topics, which makes it difficult to get to the point, and some of the content can overlap with other topics. Another challenge is the lack of on-site visits, which can only be enhanced through the course learning and online information search to enhance the understanding of the topic. For the first one, our solution is to choose the costume and rituals that we are interested in. In response to the second challenge, we search as much information as possible through the internet. Fortunately, the development of information technology has made it possible to acquire knowledge on the internet. And we can browse various websites related to the Malaysian culture. The content on this site is carefully edited before being uploaded, and the official sites are also very reliable. And the importance of maintaining the heritage. Only the inheritance of costume and culture can guarantee the diversity of culture, ensure that the tradition will be inherited, not be assimilated by other cultures, and not be submerged under the current of modern society. At the same time, costume and rituals also plays an important role in promoting the characteristic of the culture. For example, various activities held in Kementerian Festival, such as the Sumezu dance competition, Yundiki Nagado competition, can show the characteristic of Sabah dance. The Sabah arts and crafts exhibition that accompanied the event also served to promote Sabah's culture and crafts.
Okay, the three parts has been discussed by my partner Xing Wei, and I will continue to discuss the fourth part, comparison of Malaysia customer and the ritual with other cultures. Before discussion, I'd like to use a famous point. Emerson said, culture opens the perception of beauty to express the importance of culture in a countries. As international students, I'd like to express my thanks to Dr. Razana to share so much knowledge of Malaysian society and cultures. In this part, I compare Malaysia culture with our own Chinese culture. We find that there are many differences and also similarities in 5 parts. The first part is words and languages, and the second is religions. The other one is celebrations. Fourth one is clothing and food and eating. So first, we talk about words. Most of the people in Malaysia use Malay as the first languages, and English is the second official languages. Well, in all countries, China, we almost use Mandarin, Chinese, and some people use Hacking, Hainanese, and Cantonese or Hakka. For examples, when two people meet each other, they say hello. When we use Malays, we say apa kahaba. When we use Mandarin Chinese, we say ni hao. On the other hand, however, there are, we know that there are about almost 25% of Malaysians are Chinese. So I think those people, we call it Malaysia Chinese, and they can also speak in English and Chinese and Malay fluently. So, and we believe that those people's Malaysian and Chinese will be the bridge of the two culture between two countries, just like this picture. So the second part is religion. When it talks to religions, I think Izina is Malaysia's official religion. But in all countries, we do not have a dominant religion. Some people, small group of people, they believe Confucianism, Buddhism, or Taoism. The third part is celebrations. The difference is real how the people in two countries celebrate the traditional festivals. For example, most of the Malays are Muslim. They celebrate the great importance to the holiday of fasting. And we Chinese, we think the most important festival is Chinese New Year. Two countries, the people who have the religion of Christianity, they celebrating Christmas. Yeah. And no matter which ethnic groups in Malaysia, they both celebrate Malaysia Independence Day. We know that it's August 31st. Chinese also have our national days. It's October 1st. That's the difference. And the fourth part is clothing. The wear we also call the baju Malayu. The wear Western style trousers, and on the Western they wear sarung and a so-called hat on their head, and wearing the leather shoes. They looks very gentleman. Yeah. On the other hand, the women's color dresses for Malaysia women, we call it baju karu. Baju karu. In our country, China is an ancient civilization history of 5,000 years, so it's a country of clothes, different clothes. In summary, we think the Chinese clothing is quite different in different areas. So we can look at this picture. It's a simple comparison of two cultures of Chinese man, woman, and child. The last part is food and eating habits. Actually speaking, food in Malaysia really drives my interest. Let's take a look at. The first food is satay. Another food is nasi lemak, and choco taro, lekasta. In my country, we eat different kind of rice, noodles, soup, and meat. So that's the food. And when it comes to eating habits, we found that they use the right hand to grab food when they are eating. And we also know that Malaysians do not eat pork because they're all Muslim, right? So they only eat with knives and forks when they're in restaurant. On the other hand, as Chinese, we use chopsticks. Yeah. And we eat almost all food or anything, which people think it is safe or health, anything. So look at this picture, food comparison. And the first we call it yasan lista, right? Study. Nasi lemak, apa balik. In Chinese, this is noodle. I don't know how to say this one. Meat, fried fish. Yeah, that's the comparison. Thank you.
With regard to the topic of Malaysia customers and etiquette, by collecting relevant data, sorting out information, online meeting and discussion, the 6 members of our group came to the following conclusions. Number 1. This report briefly introduces the content involved in this topic and the main reasons for choosing this topic at the beginning. First of all, this part overviews the historic roots of Malaysia's religious culture, highlighting the political and the cultural influence of Islam, the main religion in Malaysia. Secondly, the report illustrates the diversity of Malaysia's cultural customs and etiquette. From these aspects of language development, social customs, and ritual activities. Finally, etiquette and customs and the focus of this activity have precious material significance and spiritual value, especially for international students. Only by fully understanding the local customs and etiquette can we broaden our vision, enrich our knowledge, integrate into local life, and avoid some unnecessary misunderstandings. All these factors are the main reasons why our group chose this topic. Number 2, the Malaysian customs and etiquette have had an magnificent influence on the current Malaysian society. First and the precious cultural heritage, Malaysian customs and etiquette are a symbol of Malaysian culture and a visiting card of Malaysia. Secondly, a deep understanding of Malaysian customs and etiquette can promote people's understanding of Malaysia history and culture, so as to strengthen people's cultural identity with Malaysia. Finally, Malaysian customs and rituals promote the inheritance of Malay culture and can demonstrate group cohesion and strengthen individual bonds with the group. Number 3, by comparing Malaysia culture with that of other countries, the report describes the difference between cultures and the causes of those differences. The main customer and culture in Malay has great diversity in ethnic, linguistic, cultural, and habits, which is greatly different from China. They all consist of a multi-element, opening up, inclusive culture. Number 4, existing major problems and improvement measures. Major problems. The inheritance of Malaysian traditional culture has been faulted. The phenomenon of cultural loss is widespread. Measures. First of all, the government makes full use of social media such as radio and television, newspaper, extensive publicity. The second is to achieve effective protection of ethnic culture. Third, the protection of regional and national folk cultures should naturally be undertaken by the creators and owners of regional and folk cultures. Fourth, we should pay attention to the protection of intangible cultural heritage and improve the social mechanism for cultural protection.